roar in this place. Good morning, mighty men. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. Can we stand and give God the greatest praise that we can give him this morning? Hallelujah! Glory to the King of Kings. Glory to the Lord of Lords. Mighty is his name. That great name, Jesus, that we serve. There's no other name like his name. Give you one more shout of praise. Hallelujah. Won't you high five at least 3 men around you and tell you look mighty good this morning. Hallelujah. Yes, you may be seated. Blessings to you all. We are so grateful to see all the mighty men in this place. And how many are excited about the next 8 weeks of your morning being changed? Your Saturday morning will never be the same after this. So we want to get things going, get things rolling. We have one of the greatest teachers in the Round Rock, Austin area, probably in the state of Texas, this side of the United States. All the way from Detroit, Michigan, our very own pastor, Gerald A. Johnson. Bless the man of God.
Thank you. You may be seated. Let's give our men's director, Pastor Joshua Johnson, a great big hand. I'm excited to see so many men out taking charge of your lives. I made a big mistake though. I planned for 30 men, so I have 30 voters, and we got 60 men here. Just about 60 men here. So that's a good thing. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to share voters. So if somebody's musty, don't worry about it. We do as men. Could you guys sit as close as possible? Some of y'all can come up in the front row. Let's get up close and personal. So what I'll do is I'll pass out these photos. Jacob, could you help me, Jacob? Let's pass out these photos and just give one to every other person. And those of you who don't get a photo, we promise you we will get you one next week. Get you one next week. But the information that you're going to get is going to be priceless. You'll still get that information. Harry, could you help me out as well? Before I get started, I just need 2 brothers who are excited about who they are to come on up to the stage real quick and say who you are and tell us a little bit about yourself. All right, come on up here.
Good morning, brother. Morning. I'm Teddy Williams. I'm from VLCM, Pastor Bettina Church. I came to look forward and get refreshed, man. During the week we have our own daily lives and work, and just came to look forward to fellowship with y'all, And I'm 44, from Houston, but I've been out here since 2005. I know Brother Gerald from around in different events through Pastor Bettina, and just glad to be here, man. Mm-hmm. At first, I got out the car and I was like, well, okay, who's gonna be here? Who I know? You know how everybody do, because I ain't know. So I see all the smiling faces, man, and we just the fellowship and just the eating and getting to know brothers, the different thing, The sisters, they doing their thing, shopping, spending our money. Well, and just happy to be here, man. Thank y'all.
All right. Anybody else? Whoever.
Hey, everybody.
KC just celebrated a birthday yesterday. KC!
I'm 33 years young.
Mm-hmm.
But now, man, I'm excited about this, man. I don't know about y'all. I'm excited, man. Just like the Bible says, how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. Man, this is so inspiring, man. I got my sons with me too, as well too, because you know you got to start them off right. Because if you think about it, sometimes we weren't taught certain things when we was young. You know, got my youngest boy right there, and the oldest. What? Oh, there you go. He's coming up. He's coming in now. But like I'm so excited. I'm man. I brought some notebook paper just in case, because I want to make sure that I write, I take notes, and pass this on, pay it forward. You know. So I'm excited, y'all.
Go Eagles. Oh, man. All right, how many think that the Patriots are going to win? Let me hear it. And how many think the Eagles are going to win? It's going to be a lot of sad people tomorrow. It's hard to bet against Tom Brady. Here you go. Some Cleveland Browns. Oh, man. That was almost satanic. Cleveland Browns. Father, we thank you. We bless you. We just thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to come together as men, to learn together, to grow together, to study together, to become better for our wives, our sons, our daughters, our family, our community. We thank you that you're making us into the kind of men that you originally projected for us to be. Open up our hearts to learn, to study, to hurt sometimes and then to heal. To remember what happened in the past, but to not stay there. To heal from the wounds of fathers and overly bonded mothers. To heal from the wounds of depravity. To get things out of us as it relates to our sexuality. To get things out of us as it relates to the things that were taught to us that were wrong as we came up. And we'll be ever so careful to give your name the glory, the honor, and the praise. In Jesus' name, someone said, Amen. Amen. I noticed something when the two men stood up. We had the one brother. What's your name again, brother? Teddy. He got up and he identified himself, who he is. And then I noticed KC. He got up and he said, you know, I'm KC, I'm 33. And then he said, I got my sons back here. He said, this is my son and this is my oldest son. One of the greatest things that every man needs, and many of us didn't get, is the same thing that happened to Jesus. When Jesus was baptized, the heavens opened up, and a voice came from heaven. It said, this is my son. Not only that, the second thing is, in whom I'm well pleased. When a man does not have another man to own him and to say that he is pleased with him, he becomes like an explorer with no map. And many of you today, many of us under the sound of my voice, we're lost. We feel lost. Because we're out here exploring, trying to make things happen, but nobody really gave us a map. And so we turn 30, 40, 50, and 60 years old and still lost. And then we ask ourselves, why is it that this man, he's 20 years old, 25 years old, he's graduated already, he's making life happen. It's like he's soaring past me. I'm working as hard as he is, but I'm lost. It's because you never had a man to pour into you to give you the roadmap for direction for your life and for your family. Does that make sense to you? So what we're going to do, we're going to provide just that, and I want to tell you the promises that you're going to get. There's some promises that I'm going to make. Men need to learn how to keep their promises, right? So if you look in your booklet and you can look near somebody, I'm going to give you some promises for everyone who sticks this class out. If you stick this out, these promises, I'm guaranteeing you, will happen to you. If you stick them out and follow the things that we're talking about. Number one, it says promises for those who finish. You will have a clear and compelling definition of manhood. We're going to spend time together, some significant time together in Genesis and other verses. We will build a definition that you can understand and follow. You will be able to communicate that definition to others. By the end of the first semester, you'll have a clear and compelling definition of manhood for your life and men in your life. Point B, you will make some significant personal discoveries. I guarantee you're going to learn a lot of things about yourself that you didn't know before we were able to get into forums like this. We're going to pull back the masks and do some work on the heart. We're going to gain understanding of who we are, what has impacted us and shaped us, our relationship with mom and dad and other men in culture. You will learn about yourself and learn things about yourself that you never knew of or understood. Point C, you will have a personalized plan for achieving authentic manhood. You are going to write your own plan out. I know that's kind of hard to think about. We got to write some things, but we do. Because a vision is not a vision if it's not written. If you don't write it down, it is not a vision. It's just a thought. And the graveyard is full of good intentions. You got to write it down. You'll have a personalized plan to achieve authentic manhood. Point D, you'll make new friends who are pursuing the common goal. Maybe most significantly, you will gain some running partners, some people who believe in Tom Brady. You will you will know some men in your life who are going after the same goals. All right, so I want you guys to flip over the page. Now, I told you that this course was 8 weeks, and it is 8 weeks. It is an 8-week course, but it's not going to stop at 8 weeks. Anyone who wants to get out of it at 8 weeks, you can get out of it. But I'm thinking that some of the material and the things that we're going to get, because today is an overview, today is an orientation. We're going to give you some things today, but next week is when we're going to get into the real heavy knowledge and start understanding ourselves. But I told you 8 weeks, so if you want to leave after 8 weeks, that's fine. But actually, there's 24 weeks worth of material, and that's no obligation. I think a lot of people are going to want to stay, though. So if you stay for the 24 weeks, when you leave out of here, you're going to have a clear, compelling definition to be able to tell your sons, hey, this is what life is supposed to look like. You're going to look at your daughters and not be confused. You're going to look at your wives and know who you are. She'll know who you are. When I look at men, when I look at preachers, because that's my field. When preachers come to town and they start preaching, I do not look at them originally. I look at their wives, because they could be the most eloquent speaker, have the most anointed speech, but if their wives don't believe in them, they are fake. And a lot of men, their wives don't believe. You can tell a lot about a man through what his wife or his fiance, how she carries herself. If she's all down and sad and beaten and broke and dry, don't have life and bounce and zest on her, that is a direct reflection of what you have not done. So we're going to teach you how to be better men for your women. So the first week, if you look at it, this is an introduction. Next week is the first step. We're going to be looking back. The third week is going to be the consequences of an absent father. That's major. The healing of the father wound. Every single thing you do, no matter who you are, everything you do is directly related to how your father treated you, how your father mentored you, or if he did not mentor you. Everything you do, your posture, your dialect, the way your certain mannerisms. Joshua Ross, you were able to be with me and saw how my pastor, who had to become my father, how he moved, how he talked, how he orchestrated. Do you see a lot of that in me? Yes. You see a whole lot of, now that's in me by default. I didn't try to do that. As a matter of fact, I tried not to do it. But it's in me by default. And even if you try not to be like your father, a lot of us, we end up saying, I'll never do that, and then do the exact same things that we promised we'd never do. That's because there's some things in you that's from your dad that you need to be healed of, and some things that you need to realize. Also, we're going to be talking about the overly bonded mother wound. Mothers can damage you badly. And there's a lot of a lot of men are boys with big bodies, still depending on mama and still listening to mama. I saw something the other 2 years ago that I could not believe. I married a guy. Wait, I didn't marry a guy. I married a couple. Got to get stuff straight, in Austin. I married a couple, and so I married this couple, and then I took them through counseling. They did really good, and then the guy took his wife to San Antonio. And when he got to San Antonio, his mother, they were in a car, and his mother put up on the side of the car and said, "Get out of the car. Get out of the car." And his wife said, "No, honey, stay." Mom said, "Get out of the car now. I'm not going to ask you anymore." This man put his car in park, got out, said, "Yes, Mom," and left his wife sitting in the car. He was so wounded by his mother, by a Jezebel spirit sitting inside of his mother, who controlled him, that even though he's free and out from up under her auspices, she still has a hold on his mind. That's a wound. And a lot of men are walking around with motherhood wounds. And we're going to open that up and we're going to dig that out and make sure that you're not operating with that, because if you have a motherhood wound, it's going to directly reflect how you treat your wife and if you cheat on your wife or not. You know that? If you keep hearing, I don't want to get too much into it. Yeah. I'll talk a little bit into that. So did you know, when you grow up and your mother is, and she's talking, at the age of 16, 17, you develop a callus for that. You don't want to hear it, and you can't wait for yourself to get away from it. But because it's a part of you, a lot of men end up marrying somebody just like that because it feels comfortable and it feels normal. But then after about 16, 17 years into that, the same thing happens. You develop a callus. And so your eye starts to see someone else who does not talk like that. And so the thing is, we have to get that wound out from what our mothers put in us so we can take what our wives talk to us like sometimes. You listen to me. And so that motherhood wound goes very deep. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Jezebel. And then the week afterwards, we'll be talking about beyond the motherhood wound. The next week is men and mentors. Every great man needs another great man around him to ground him. There is no man that's powerful that does not have a mentor. None. If you don't have a mentor, that's going to be my lesson today. We talk about men and mentors. We're going to be talking about friends, about men having friends. I noticed that I was watching the way how the men hugged each other and talked to each other. And a lot of times, men who are not confident with themselves, when they greet another man, they're overly masculine with that man because they don't want to feel gay. So they walk up to, hey, how you doing? How you doing? Bro, I can't even understand what you're saying, first of all. And it shows me that there's something in you that's afraid. No man has ever taught you how to connect to another man because you're afraid to just say, hey, my name is Bill. I'm hurting, bro. Even some leaders, when they have men conferences, they, yeah, we're men. We are men, but we're hurting. And so we need somebody to understand us and to love us. I got a text message I was just showing Joshua Ross from a guy. I used to be a youth pastor in Detroit, so I had a lot of young men who looked up to me, a whole lot of young men. I had it to where young men would be leaving the strip clubs and coming and dropping their guns at the altar. They would come in and they would break CDs and put them at the altar. I'll never do this again. Well, God blew a wind of change in my life, and I had to come here because he told me. God made me come here. He told me to come here. And so I came, and one guy just texted me. He hadn't talked to me in 6 years, and he texted me this morning. He said, I had a dream that I was lost. And this guy's an actor. He's out there doing pretty good now. I had a dream that I was lost, and I was just lost in a sea of nothingness. And I'm walking, and all of a sudden, or I'm floating, or whatever he's doing on the sea, and I see a table, and I see you sitting at the table. He said, when I saw you, you appeared as a king, and you were pondering. But it was something in you that made me love you so much that I ran to you and gave you a hug. And I just want to tell you that through that dream, I feel compelled to text this to you. I couldn't take when you left, so I blocked you out. And I noticed that the guy, when I was leaving, I noticed that he started like pushing me away a little bit. He wouldn't connect with me. And he was like, I finally had another man to see me and to love me. Well, he said, possibly love me. And for you to leave, the only thing I could do to protect myself was to block you out. But it left me in confusion. And now I'm confused. So I want to tell you I'm sorry and that I love you. And I texted him back instantly, even though I was busy. I said, man, I understand. I've been through the same thing. I've always been here. I've been watching in on you on Facebook, and I still love you. You can call me anytime. So he's, oh, man. Now I finally have a sense of direction because another man loves me. Isn't that something? Look at this syllabus real quick, or turn to the next page on the syllabus. I'm going to kind of give you an idea of how we're going to be doing. After every week, even after this week, we're going to be having a little small, easy test just to make sure that you understood the things that I went over. And then after that, we're going to break off into discussion groups. All of us are going to have groups, and when we have those groups, you make sure that you get in the group with someone who you don't necessarily know buddy right now, because the purpose of the group is to be able to share life experiences with each other, to heal after these talks, and to kind of just develop friends, people who actually love the Patriots and things like that. So develop friends, and who hate Ohio State. What kind of, look at this. Look at these, all three of these got on red. What is wrong with this? Strength in numbers, okay. And Brennan back here at Ohio State, they did that to torment me purposely. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'll give you guys my, I need you to take notes now, but I'll give you my notes, my teaching notes, so that some of you are going to take this back to your churches, and you're going to revolutionize the men at your churches. Some of you are going to just take it to your families and say and talk to your families, nieces, nephews, aunties, uncles, and help them to get out of a state of confusion. All right, so before I start this, I want you to know this series that I'm going to be teaching on, this series is over 20 years old. Men all across the country have been using this same series to change their lives. Once you change a man, you change a family. When you change a family, you change a community. Change a community, change a city. Change a city, change a state. You change a state, you can change a whole country, but this happens by you first changing the man. So a guy by the name of Pastor Robert Lewis of Fellowship Church in Little Rock, Arkansas, is the originator of this series. So I just want to make sure that, because this is recorded, and I want to make sure that he gets the credit, I'm going to be adding a lot of, most teachers who teach this, they add a lot of things from their perspective and their expertise inside of it. So, but he is the originator of it. So manhood is in a state of confusion. And the first thing I want you to know is that if you feel lost, and you feel alone, you are not alone. Most men feel that way. Men are confused. And God has created you with a masculine OS, a masculine operating system. God has created females with a feminine operating system, right? But throughout the 60s and 70s, one of the major problems that one of the reasons why manhood is in a state of confusion is because through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, this big term popped up that said that men need to get more in touch with their what? Feminine side. Men need to get more in touch with their feminine side. But that's a big lie, because God didn't make you with a feminine side. He made you with a masculine OS. The Bible says, do not be effeminate. It's in the Bible. So if you have any femininity inside of you, not just in your body language, I'm not talking about like your wrist is broke or something. I'm talking about the way that you deal with life and people could be that of a female. God made you with a masculine OS operating system. And when you try to merge the two, something breaks. How many of you are in computers here? You computer programmers. We know that if you use some outdated hardware with some new software, things are going to what? They're going to shut down. They're going to be real slow. Even if you try to update it, if the hardware and the software is not right, it's not going to work. A lot of us are not working because we got software inside of us when we're really hardware. Are y'all catching that? So the way that this happened, and write this down, this is very important. The way that this happened, I'm going to take you back through a little history. Know your history, because it's his story. In our country in the 1800s, starting at like the late 1800s, right around the World War II times, we went through three major revolutions in our country. The first revolution was the Industrial Revolution. Someone say Industrial Revolution. All right. In the Industrial Revolution, something happened. Before that, men did not have a poor idea of what masculinity is, because they worked with their fathers on the farm agriculturally, or whatever their business was. They were with their father all day, every day. So the sweat of a man, the mannerisms of a man, the sayings of a man, it was always there all day. They didn't have to take a class to learn it. But after the Industrial Revolution, what happened was men, they came out of the farms, came out of their businesses, and now went into factories and left sons at home with mama. They left their clans, so they're not there with their uncles and their cousins anymore. They're living in a different city, away from their father, at home with mama. So now he's picking up all of mama's characteristics, her ideas. He's being wounded when really he was supposed to be with his father. And a lot of us, under the sound of my voice, we weren't raised with our fathers. Our fathers were somewhere else when they should have been putting what they know inside of us. And that revolution caused a big confusion in manhood. Stay with me. The second revolution was a spiritual revolution. 1859, Darwin, remember Darwin's theory of evolution? Darwin, he published this book called The Origin of Species. And before 1859, watch this, man, before 1859, it was considered highly unintellectual for a man to be an atheist. If you said you were an atheist, that means that you were the dumbest son of a gun on the side of this galaxy. Because when you think about it, how can anyone really be an atheist? The only people that are atheists are people who have father problems. See, when you look at the earth, just say, someone say time. Anything that is in time has to be managed by something. Nothing at all that has time attached to it or detached from it was by a person. Or should I say it like this? If it's got time on it, somebody organized that. So when you look at the earth, look at the earth. The earth has an imaginary axle through it. It is tilted. And it takes 24 hours for the earth to completely turn around. And then it does it again. And then it does it again. And then it does it again. Always on time. If that was a haphazard mistake, then it'll be 12 hours for this day, and then 20 hours for this day, and then maybe 50 hours for this day. But every day is 24 hours. Somebody set that in time. And it's actually, it depends on what kind of time you're looking at. Sometimes it's 24 hours, or sometimes it's 23.56 hours, or something like that, but it's always on time. And while it's turning on time in an organized fashion, the moon is going around it. While it's turning, the moon's going around it, never getting off course, never going out 50 miles away, never coming back in 60 miles, never coming too close to the earth, crashing the earth. Meteors come to the earth sometimes, but the moon never comes to the earth. And so as it's spinning, and the moon is going around it, it's going around the sun. And it takes 365 days for it to go around the sun. Come on, people. Yeah. Somebody did that. There's no way that some big boom can create that kind of order. So after Darwin's theory of evolution, men start reasoning and saying that maybe there is a reason for our existence outside of God. Maybe we need to look to pumas and giraffes and rabbits to determine how we're framed. How silly, you see how we laughed at that? How silly is that? That men now, they went away from Creator God and started looking to his creation to define themselves. And this is one of the biggest things of science. This is how science robs us of our masculinity. Did you guys know that science was a term invented by Christians? Science, if you go to the Catholic library, the Catholic Church is a beast. Now, there is a lot of stuff wrong with the Catholic Church. I am recording this. I do love the Catholics, but it's just a lot of stuff that we wouldn't do the way that they do it. But their encyclopedia and the knowledge and the money that they own and the earth, the land that they own. Because you're not really a man until you own some land. We want to get you guys to be some land owners. Two things God's not making any more of. That's time and land. When you get those, you're becoming a man. Anyway, the Catholic Church owns a lot of that. And they invented, from their offspring, that invented the word science. But we let man take it over. This is like the rainbow. God said that the rainbow is a covenant, a sign that he'll never flood the earth again. But we let somebody steal it and say it's a symbol of homosexuality. You see what I'm saying? So this revolution happened, and now the men are confused and don't know who they are because they got away from the originator of mankind, who is God. Are you listening? And then the third revolution, which is a very important one as well, was the social revolution. Started in the 60s, 70s, and 80s with the women's live movement. And in the women's live movement, it was taught to men that you are no different than a woman. They said that the only reason why you're different than a woman is because you've been socialized to believe that you're different. Now, many of you sitting under the sound of my voice right now, you're like, that's crazy. But in that day, people started to believe that. And the gender roles started getting completely confused because of those three revolutions. Now, I'm talking about how this got us here. Now, here's the deal. Because of these revolutions, men are confused. I won't say confused. And confused men create major problems. Confused men create problems, and because we're leaders, we bring everyone else into our problem world. Some of your wives and girlfriends and some of your constituents and coworkers were better off without you in their lives. But if you're confused, you bring them into they have no choice but to come in and get up under and submit up under your confusion. If you want a woman to submit to you, you have to ask yourself, submit to what? And let me ask you this question. Ask yourself this question right now. Are you the kind of man that you would follow? All right, right now in this present state, are you the kind of man that you would follow? Now, let's be honest, because we're all brothers in here. Who would say that I am the kind of man that I would follow right now in my life? We had 2 hands to go up. You see how deep that is? So because we're not the kind of men that we would follow, we got to fix this problem, don't we? All right, so confused men create major problems and bring others in with them. A radio host, Garrison Keller, said this. He says that these are not good times for men. It seems like manhood is now a problem to overcome as opposed to a status to achieve. A number of years ago, Newsweek magazine had a picture of a man. It was a man who was in a suit, and he had a pig's head. And the title said, "Are men really that bad?" And the answer is, yes. Yes, we are. Because manhood is in a state of confusion. Here's some statistics. 90% of murders in the United States of America are done by men. Now, there are more women than men in the world, but 90% of all murders by men. 70% of all rapes by men. 85% of the people in jail, men. The majority of the crimes in our country are men. If a police officer walks up to a car, 80% of the time is going to be a man there. Margaret Mead, a leading anthropologist around the world, she made a startling statement. This woman, she goes all around the world to every country, to every nation, to all these cities to define people, right? And she made a startling statement. She says that the central problem to every society is to define the role of a man. It's not, can we build roads? Do we have traffic lights, build buildings, homeless centers? It's the central problem to every society is defining the role of a man. She found out this, that men are not neutral. Men are either builders or destroyers. Say this, say men are not neutral. We are either builders or destroyers. She said this, men either give life or rob life. You as a man, you are not neutral. You're going to either give life to somebody or you're going to steal life from somebody. Everyone that you meet, they're going to live or they're going to die based off of you, meaning emotionally. Everyone that you meet, you're going to either build them or you're going to destroy them based off of you. Men are not neutral. We are leaders. Now shake yourself. I see a little you all getting sleepy. Shake yourself. Don't let the enemy get you all sleepy because you got to learn. Get some coffee, do some whatever you got to do. Have somebody slap you in the back of the head, whatever you need to do. If you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, what tends to happen is that you create problems and drag other people in them with you if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing. In 2006, Newsweek magazine had an article, and it concluded that, first of all, 40 to 50% of boys are being raised without fathers. How many of you would say that you had your father raise you? Raise your hands up. If your biological father raised you. All right, hands down. And biological fathers did not raise you. Hands up. That's too much. Now, the statistic just said 40 to 50%. And I just saw 50% of the men in this room say that my father did not raise me. Why? Secondly, here's another question. How many of you have sons right now, and this is no condemnation, but how many of you have sons right now that you are not living in the house with? Raise your hands. A nice amount of hands went up. Out of you that raised your hands, how many of you, your father didn't live with you? Hands back up again. Every one of them. Your sons what? They're old. Okay, all right. Well, that's a little different. I'm young, but my sons are old. So, but the problem has been perpetuated, and the reason why we're not raising our sons is not because you're a bad person. It's just because you didn't know how, because you didn't have that example. But we're going to give you that example, and this will never, ever again happen in your whole lineage. Say, this will never happen, again in my entire lineage. When men don't understand how important their role is, they have a masculine destiny, it impacts their whole society. Here's another thing. I like this one right here. Men who are not mentored and raised by another man are confused, and confused men always settle for less. Confused men always settle for less. What you have in your life right now is based off of what you have settled for. And if you don't even know what you're supposed to be having, you'll just settle for whatever life brings you. Now, for me, my life, I have a clear vision and a clear goal on what I'm supposed to be doing, especially as it relates to church. So when I don't see that, I'm not settling for that. When I see people who come in and they're not in conglomerate with the vision that God gave me, I'm not settling for that. When I see women who come in and they try to have those skirts on and try to write me letters and blow kisses at me and all that kind, I'm not settling for that, because I already know what that brings. Why? Because I have a vision of what it looks like. So I'm not settling for it. I am supposed to own multiple. At one point in time in my life, I owned millions of dollars in real estate. 3 apartment buildings, 6 houses, beauty supply stores, car lots, all those things. And I'm going to own those things again. I had to shut those things down, some because Detroit went bad and some because I had to come here. But I have a vision of that's what I'm supposed to have. And if I don't have it, I'm not settling for that. Why? Because I'm not confused. When you are a confused man, you settle for whatever comes to you. But through this, we're going to give you some vision. And then you'll say, wait a minute, this is who I am. This is what I'm supposed to have in my life. Because some of the things are directly connected to your bloodline. There are bloodline blessings that are supposed to hit your life, but some of our fathers have robbed us from them. And so now we are confused. All right, let me talk to you about a few different types of manhood, then we're going to close it off for today. What time is it? 11:08. Okay. All right. Confused men settle for less. There's a couple of different types of manhood. There is one manhood called conventional manhood. And conventional manhood looks like this. Conventional manhood is when a man identifies himself by what he does. So we're taught from a child, what's your name? And then right after we're taught, what's your name? What do you want to be when you grow up? What's your name? And what do you want to be when you grow up? Now, I asked these 2 brothers to come up, and I said, I want you to tell something about yourselves. And I was looking to see, are they going to start talking about what they do or who they are? If you define yourself by what you do, if that's what makes you, you are going to be a very sad person at the time that you retire. If that's what makes you, how many men are 50 and over here? How many retired men do we have here? All right. Retired men will tell you that if you base all of who you are off of, I am this because I do this, when you get older, you're going to be very lost. You don't base yourself off of what you do, your identity off of what you do. You base your identity of your purpose in life and your calling in life. But the problem is we don't know what our purpose is or what our vision is. Say this, I am not what I do. I am my purpose. The other kind of manhood is delayed manhood. I like this one too. because a lot of us are there right now, and we got to shovel up some of this. What is delayed manhood? Delayed manhood is when a man identifies himself by the gap year. The gap year is when a person graduates from college and they don't want to really get into work yet, and so they just take a year off. They just take a year off, and they just play video games, and they just chill with the boys, and they just hang out, never get a job. And the person who has delayed manhood will never embrace the fact that I am responsible for the people around me. They just chill. And some of us are right there, still in delayed manhood right now. A man who's in delayed manhood still has his parents taking care of him. Still connected to my mother's phone bill. Still receiving information and still receiving support from my mother and my father because I'm delayed in my manhood. When I ask a man, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to ask a man right now, one of you men. Oh, everybody woke up. Good, good. I'm going to ask a man. I'm going to point somebody out. I'm going to ask a man, what excites you about being a man? Let me see. Terrence McGarity, come on up real quick. Let's give Terrence a hand. All right. We got the microphone? All right. Terrence McGarity. And let's see, I'll ask one more guy. Who wants to volunteer?
I'll do it.
All right, rolling. All right. So Terrence, man, what excites you about being a man?
I don't know. I've never actually been asked that.
Good.
But I guess what I would say is the journey into always becoming better.
The journey. So what excites you is the journey into always becoming better.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know it's going to get better. There's always light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay.
So it's just that journey that I take. I don't know what that is.
So that excites you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's give him a hand. All right. What excites you, Roland, about being a man?
You already know. No, what excites me about being a man is I get to raise my son completely different than how I was raised and where I came from. That's what excites me, because he's not going to go through what I went through. It's not happening, because it's my responsibility to direct him in where he's going. He's 5, so he's at that age where he's moldable. You know what I mean? So that's what excites me.
All right, great job. Take that. Okay. So, all right. So those of you, when I asked that question, everybody perked up and started thinking. I can see smoke coming out your head. Like, what if he calls me? But many of you have never been asked that question before. You can tell them where a man is when you ask him questions like that. When you ask them that question, they're either going to give you a progressive or regressive answer. A progressive or regressive answer. The regressive answer sounds like this: a chance to go chill with the boys, finally get out and drink, play some video games, hang out. Oh, I'm so happy I don't have a period. I'm so happy I ain't got these emotions that these crazy women have. I'm glad when I use the bathroom I can stand up. I'm a man. That's called a regressive answer. But a progressive answer is when a man says, there's 3 answers to that. Number 1, when he says, I'm excited about the opportunity to properly love a woman. Let me stop right there. The originator of this series, he did something. He said he had a group just like this together. He said, all right, men, and I may ask you guys that, maybe not. He says, men, how many of you have taught your sons how to throw a baseball? I'll ask you guys that question. How many of y'all taught your sons or your cousin, your little boy, somebody how to throw a baseball? Hands up. All right. How many of you have taught your sons how to throw a football? All right. A lot of the hands went up. All right. How many of you have taught your sons how to properly love a woman? A few hands went up. A few hands went up. I don't know how you probably taught your son how to. He's like 3.5.
I'm teaching him how to properly love his mother.
His mother. Okay, that's good. Oh, that's good. Good. Okay. How many of you all have sat your sons down and given them a proper masculine vision for their manhood? 2 hands went up. The same thing happened in the study. The first question, a lot of hands went up. Second question, a lot of hands went up. Properly love a woman, 2 hands. The vision, no hands. It's because a lot of us operate in regressive masculinity. So the progressive is how to properly love a woman, number 1. Number 2, how can I take a son and put in him what I did not get? How can I make him 2 times the man that I am? That's what excites me about being a man. And thirdly, how I can make a positive contribution into the world around me and not just take up space. How can I make a positive? Now, hands up or hands down, or I would say hands up. How many of you feel like right now, be honest with yourself, and don't just try to be good for this survey, but how many of you feel like you're making some kind of positive contribution to your environment? And some of you feel like, I'm just not contributing anything. And the reason why is because we don't know that we're supposed to. And some of us are actually operating in delayed man. We're still in that time of that break, waiting and drifting. When men don't have proper mentorship, they drift. Y'all remember Jeffrey Dahmer? Yeah. Let me tell you a story about Jeffrey Dahmer. He used to eat people, right? Jeffrey Dahmer, in the early 70s, he took, and all the way up into the 80s, he took 17 men. He would go to gay bars. He would go in there. Now, he was raised in the home with the mother and the father. He would go to gay bars, go in there with these men. He would take them home, drug them, lay them down, kill them, sleep with their dead corpses, and then take some of it and put it in the refrigerator. Some of it he would eat it. Crazy. 1981, he goes to jail. Needless to say that within a few weeks or months of him being in jail, the men in prison killed him right away. But they were intrigued with his brain. Like, what would make this man take 17 men, take them home, kill them, sleep with a dead corpse, put some in the refrigerator and eat it? The scientists wanted to know, is there a gene, a serial killer gene? What was going on with this? And so they contacted his mother and they said, Mom, can we get his brain and check his brain out and see what's going on? And the mom said, yeah, because we did right by him. I don't know what's going on with him, how that happened to him. And they asked his father, Father, can we get your consent? And his dad said, no. He said, I don't need you to research this. He said, the problem is me. He said, he was in my house with me, but I totally emotionally disconnected from him. He said, because I never told him I loved him, and he was fighting for my love, he drifted. Confused men begin to drift, and they begin to just kind of sway off the path. Jeffrey Dahmer's father is a PhD. He's a college professor. He goes around from university to university telling people how to get their lives better, but his son was dying on the inside, and he drifted because he didn't have a man to properly show him. Let me finish this up. The Bible has insights to all these things. Somebody real quick read 1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 16. Stand up and read it loud if you could. 1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 16. Go ahead.
And without controversy, great is the mystery of godliness. God was manifested in the flesh, justified.
2 Timothy 3 and 16. I said first, but just testing, see what you know.
All scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness.
All scripture is given by inspiration and is profitable for what?
reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness.
Okay, that's good. We're going to be using the Bible to tackle a lot of these issues because everything's in there. It's profitable for correction, for teaching. Give you 2 points before you leave. How do we tackle these things? How do we tackle this confusion? The first thing, this is going to be on this little survey too that you need to know this. How do we tackle this confusion? The first thing is you have to deal with the unfinished business of your past. You have to deal, men, with the unfinished business of your past or you will never grow. Some of us in this room, you've been raped. Got real quiet. Some of us in this room, you've been raped by your uncles. You've been raped by the man that mom left at home. Some of you have been raped by women. Some of you have been raped by men in your mind. Men taking you and putting you in front of a TV and said, this is what it means to be a man. Look at this pornography. This is what it means to be a man. Look at this Hustler book. Get some hair on your chest, boy. This is what it means to be a man. And then some of you were raised by music. They told you to have pros in different area codes. They said me and Mrs. Jones. That's somebody's wife. They said it takes a fool to know that love don't love nobody when the Bible says God is love. Some of us have been molested. And because we've been molested, we got to go back and heal the hurts of our past. We got to do it. This 2018, February, this is the time for us to get back in there and dig it out and cry about it, talk about it, pull it out, because we're starting to look like the hurt that happened to us. Men have a tendency to delay stuff and delay things. They put it off. We always do that. But what you put off is like a nuclear waste container sitting on the inside of you. I didn't say a nuclear bomb. I said a nuclear waste container sitting on the inside of you. And every time you get hit with something else in life, it starts to leak. The nuclear waste leaks, and then it poisons you. And then you contaminate everybody around you, and then ultimately self-destruct. You got to go back in your past, deal with your past, and be daring and brave enough as a man to do it. And the second thing is to develop a vision for your manhood. Father, we thank you right now for just getting us started.